If you don't know how to quickly recall your troops on the battlefield, what the latent power talent does, or how to easily farm some KP during rallies, then stick around because today we're going to be going over 13 different tips that you probably didn't know in Rise of Kingdoms. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Okay, now two things really quick. First of all, as you guys know, I am a sponsored creator with Rise of Kingdoms, so if you want more Rise of Kingdoms content, subscribe down below and click that bell. Number two, if you learned something in this video, you are contractually required to like the video, or you could just be generous and do that anyway, or dislike it if you want. Actually, you could probably just dislike it too. I don't know. Oh, and I guess number three is I am feeling much better now, so thank you guys all for the kind words and all the get well messages. Really appreciate it, so thank you. Okay, now tip number one has to do with Emperor Qin, and this is kind of in honor of the fact that I basically missed his entire release because I was sick, and so some of you might already know this tip, but if you are pairing Emperor Qin with Zhuge Liang, this single army combination does not require that you come all the way to the end of the skill tree. Feral Nature is easily one of the most commonly used talents in the entire game, and this commander pairing specifically is pretty much one of the only exceptions to that rule in Rise of Kingdoms, and that is especially true if you're using the Horn of Fury on this commander pair. Now, we're not going to get into the weeds about all the different accessory combinations and all the different talent builds that you could do if you run this army and this army and this army. Multiple creators have already covered that topic in depth, and maybe down the line at some point when I do an archer guide, I will share all of that with you. But just know for right now, if you're running Emperor Qin with Zhuge Liang, especially if there's a Horn of Fury, you don't need Feral Nature. You don't need these points here, which means you don't need to put the points in attack, and you also don't need to put the points in defense here. And those points that you save, you can come up here and you can grab Whistling Arrows. You can put them somewhere else. I know some people are testing out Naked Rage. I only have 1 point into Razor Sharp over here as well, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I wanted to start with this talent because first of all, I just haven't been able to make Emperor Qin videos, and I wanted to throw this in here. And two, 64% of you guys have Feral Nature, so I just wanted to, set the record straight. If you're running him with Zhuge Liang, you don't need it. And there's multiple reasons for that. First of all, the rage cycle of Qin is super fast, especially because he starts with a lot of rage. And also Zhuge Liang's expertise, some of you might not know this, but his expertise gives you 30 rage per target hit by the skill here. So you get 30 rage if you deal damage with the active skill or with the marquee AoE on the 4th skill. Okay, so you can hit up to 5 targets with this, you can hit up to 3 targets with this, and every target that you hit with those skills is going to get you 30 rage. And with the fast skill cycle of Emperor Qin, you're going to be casting your secondary, which is Zhuge Liang, really fast, really often, and that means you're going to get a lot of bonus rage with this commander pairing, and so you just don't need Feral Nature, so save those points. Whistling Arrows gives you bonus damage. That's fantastic. Tip number two is very simple, but this is going to be very important if you are a newer player, that you understand this. Okay, if you are running across the map to grab a rune, you should always be using a tier 1 cavalry unit. Now, this is something that old players have known since the dawn of time, but brand new players might not understand, so let me explain really quick. If I go to grab this Rune of War Drum, okay, we're going to use a fast army like this. Now I'm using Museum Relic on Caesar, that's why he's fast here. But if we go to grab that rune with a tier 5 unit, then you'll see here that it takes 11 minutes and 54 seconds because I'm pretty far away from that rune. If instead I use a single tier 4 unit, it's going to be 11 minutes and 12 seconds, and if I use a single tier 1 unit, it's going to be 9 minutes and 31 seconds. That is significantly faster. Now, I know you're thinking, Omni, what if you just take a bunch of tier 5 units and just throw in a single tier 1 unit? Is that going to slow it down? Well, let's go ahead and see how long it's going to take if we add some tier 5. Nah, that ain't gonna work. So basically it has to be all the same troop type. It has to be all the same tier of unit. And the reason that this works is because tier 1 units across the board, not just cavalry, but across the board, tier 1 units are faster than the higher tiers of units. As you can see here, tier 1 horsemen have a 100 base march speed, whereas tier 5 cavalry have 80 base march speed. And then if we come into, let's say, infantry, for example, we can see that a tier 1 infantry has 85 march speed. So a tier 1 infantry is actually faster than a tier 5 cavalry, which means these people on foot run faster than the horses of tier 5 cabs, which is insane to think about. But here we have tier 5 infantry, 65 march speed, right? So yeah, just to clear that up, as you guys know, tier 1 horsemen, fastest units in the game, and when it comes to grabbing a rune, you don't care about literally anything else. The only downside of this strategy is that it's super easy to kill your tier 1 horsemen. They could just pop it like a balloon, just pop, it's dead in one single hit. So you could run across the map for 5 minutes and someone just taps your margin instead. So just be very careful that you're not running through enemy territory with this, because you might waste time on the way to the rune. But otherwise, if you're running safely, it'll be much faster to do this. And we're going to cover some more march speed tips later in the video, so stay tuned. Tip number 3 has to do with the daily objective skillful craftsman. It says upgrade one building in your city, and that actually might be a little bit difficult because, for example, upgrading my hospital takes 10 hours, so I gotta wait 10 hours to complete that objective. I don't want to wait that long. So here's a little tip on how you can complete this quickly. What you can do is come into your decorative structures over here, okay, and you'll see that there's a lot of different things that you can pick from. You can pick roads, you can do lanterns, plants, trees, whatever you want to do, okay. And what we're going to do is actually build something that we haven't built before. By that I mean that we actually have to pay a cost to build it. So as you can see here, we have an ordinary urban roadway, okay, and basically I have 190 out of 390 built. I know my head is kind of covering it up, so maybe I'll move this over here, but if we build this urban roadway, it'll cost me 1,000 wood to do that. Now don't ask me why this stone road costs 1,000 wood and not 1,000 stone. If we decide to build this somewhere in the grass over here, we'll just plop it down and boom, it says daily objective skillful craftsman is complete. Now if I go ahead and take this road and I put it back into my inventory, okay, now I've already paid the 1,000 wood cost. When I come back into my decoration thing, you'll see it says stock 1, okay, and when it says stock 1, I can actually build that road whenever I want without actually having to pay the 1,000 cost for it again, because I've already done it. Right now I'm just putting it back into the inventory. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because you will only be able to claim this daily objective if you're actually building something that you're paying the cost for. So in the case of spending 1,000 wood, boom, I get the skillful craftsman. But it's not like you can just build the road, put it back into your inventory, and then the next day build it again for free and then claim the objective. It's not going to work like that, okay? So just keep that in mind. You have to build something technically new every day. I say new because I've got roads all over the place here. As you can see, there's roads everywhere, but as long as you're paying the cost, you should be good. Moving on to tip number 4, this is going to be a way that you can easily farm some kill points if you guys are rallying a flag in KVK. Now the first thing that you want to do if you're going to try this strategy is make sure that the individual or your ally that is rallying the flag is in a different alliance than you. So for example, what I see a lot of rally leaders do is they will leave the main alliance and join a farm alliance, and they will rally a flag from the farm alliance. Why would they do this? Well, the reason that you would do this is because if there is a garrison in the flag that has AoE damage, then they're only going to deal that AoE damage to the members of the alliance that are actually hitting the flag. And so if you're rallying it with a farm alliance, then that AoE is going to deal damage to anybody that's in the same alliance, which means everybody in your main alliance is going to be safe from the AoE. Okay, so check that off. As long as that's true, then you're good. The other thing is some garrisons don't have AoE, so you don't have to worry about that obviously in those scenarios, but I want to at least mention that first and foremost because you don't want to be taking unnecessary big damage during these wars. Okay, then what you're going to do is come into your settings under customization and you're going to turn on attack march. Okay, and another setting that is sort of optional but really helps here is something called quick command. You're going to turn this on as well. And what I'm now going to do, right, is we're going to zoom back out into dot mode because this is how everyone plays during a war. Okay, I'm going to turn on quick command, make sure attackable targets is turned off here so you don't accidentally, click on somebody's city, for example. Then you're going to multi-select all of your armies that you want to actually do this with, and then once you have your armies standing on top of the enemy flag that you guys are rallying, you're actually just going to click and hold until you see that circle turn into a dotted line, and you're going to let go. Once you do that, you'll see that your armies have a purple stepping symbol right next to their portraits here, and that means that attack march is functioning. What this means is that if your armies walk into an enemy that has war frenzy, what's going to happen is you're going to attack that march immediately, automatically, without you even having to click on that army. What this does, and as you see here, what I'm doing is I'm moving my army back and forth over the flag that we would be rallying. Okay, now obviously in this example this is our own flag, but I'm just using it as an example. This is how you're going to do this in actual war. Okay, you're just going to attack march back and forth over this flag, and you can do it pretty quickly, right? You just, as soon as you see the dotted lines, you just let go, and you just do this back and forth, and you just stand on top of the flag. Now how are you farming kills doing this? What is actually happening here? Well, as I said before, this is an enemy flag, right? And you're rallying it, and so they're going to be reinforcing that flag because they're probably going to have cities right on top of that flag to do this really quickly, right? And so there's only about a second or two, maybe even less, worth of time between your enemy walking from the city and getting into the flag. And so what you want to do is capitalize on that split second of availability and make sure that your armies hit them exactly as soon as they're able to do that, and you want to deal as much damage as you can. And so by constantly having your armies attack march over the flag, you're going to maximize the probability that an enemy walks into the flag while you're right there ready to attack, and you swarm them down for 1 second or something like that before they disappear. And if you do this throughout the duration of the rally, you'll be surprised at just how much points and how much KP you can farm in a pretty small amount of time that doesn't really cost you anything. I mean, the armies aren't attacking you back. The only thing you're really taking is counterattack damage, and a lot of times people reinforce flags with not their strongest armies, right? Because they don't want to waste their strong commanders in the flag when they could be cheeseburgering it with it somewhere else, you know what I mean? So incorporating this tactic is not only a good way for you to farm kill points, but also it's going to make it really hard for the enemy to reinforce their flag with full marches. And that's like the whole point, is that you want to take down the flag. And so not only are you getting kills for yourself, but you're also playing the objective, and that's kind of a win-win. Tip number 5 is how you can get your army back to your city a lot faster. And this is a really nice tip, especially if your march is really low on health and maybe you're far away from your city, or you just need to get your army back for whatever reason. Maybe it's going off and grabbing a rune somewhere, and you've already grabbed the rune, now you want it to come back really quickly. Here's something that you can do. First of all, if I want to recall my Ragnar Prime right now, let's see how long it would take. It's going to take 1 minute. Okay, so from here it's going to take 1 minute to walk back to my city. But what if I'm really low and I want to just die and go back to my city that way? Let's see how long it takes. If I go ahead and I just die, it takes 30 seconds. So I literally cut my recall time in half. We've reduced it by 50% by simply dying. Right now, here's the downside. Okay, first of all, the downside is you gotta die. Okay, so if you got a lot of troops left in your army, then it's not going to be a good strategy to just throw them in the garbage just to get back home sooner. Sometimes you might do that if you're a whale, but in general you're not going to obviously be able to do this tip if your army is perfectly healthy. But like I said, if you're far from home, you're on red, do not think about walking back to your city, bro. Just kill your march. It's going to get home faster. You can even do this on like a barbarian, like I just did for the example. Sometimes if you only have like 2,000 units left, just hit a barb, just kill the march on the barb, and it's going to go back even quicker, right? And also this is especially important in things like altar, because the cool part about altar is that as soon as your march dies and it's running back to your city, it's a little gray, march that you just saw there with my Ragnar. As soon as your march dies, you can send in another march to the altar, right? So like there's no reason to be retreating during an altar. Like that's crazy. This tip is even more powerful if you have the rapid retreat technology, because as soon as your march is defeated, you can then spend 200 gems to instantly bring it back to your city. Like it just teleports back to your city, which reduces your retreat cost to basically 0. But this is definitely for whales. Tip number 6 is a quick one. This has to do with recalling your troops to your city as fast as possible. This can be done in 2 ways depending on how you're playing. If you're playing on mobile, there is a setting in your settings here that says search/return switch, and if you hover over the button here, it says if enabled, the search button will change to the return to city button whenever you select a troop, mobile version only. So if you turn this on, basically what's going to happen is when your army is out, you'll see here I have my Bai Chi Liu Che. This search button right here on mobile will change to a return to city button, right? And this is helpful. I know you're looking at this and you're saying, Omniarch, there's one right here, right? This is helpful if you have all of your army selected, right? You have all 5 selected, you just tap that button and they all start walking back to your city. Super helpful. If you are on PC, the reason that this doesn't work is because you have an entire keyboard, and so you can just use a hotkey and you can do it much faster. So I could just press the R key on my keyboard and they start going home. Right now it is Bai Chi Liu Che, but if I had all 5 of my armies selected, I would send all 5 of them home by just pressing the R key on my keyboard, right? And you can actually customize that in your settings here under controls. You can come into shortcuts and you can come in here and sort of check and do exactly what you're looking to do here, right? There's also the hotkey settings and all that stuff. So come in here and you can modify this to your liking to make it as fast as possible. For me, I can share with you guys, I have select all troops set as A, and the way that I remember that is A for all, right? I'm selecting all. Select troops on screen, I have that as control A, because I want to control which all of the troops I'm selecting, right? Just the ones in front of me, not the one that's off collecting a rune somewhere, right? So I have that set as control A, and also control A like cramps my hand a little bit more. And honestly, I'm selecting all more than I'm selecting troops on screen. So I want the easier to press one being the one that I use more often, which is select all. So I just hit the A key, all my armies are selected. I hit the right click on my mouse to attack the target, or I'm using attack march depending on the scenario. And then if I'm getting targeted, I press the R key on my keyboard, and that's it. I can do all this from dot mode, and I don't have to move my hands from my keyboard to my mouse, and I can go in and out of combat and just, you know, tap things really, really quickly. And that's pretty much it. So do that if you're on PC. If you're on mobile, you don't have a keyboard, but you do have this brand new setting that they put in here a few patches ago. You can select all on the touch screen, and then you just tap the return home button on the screen and you're good to go. For tip number 7, I'm going to paint you guys a quick picture. Okay, you're about to go into the first fight of your KVK. You pop your 50% expansion boost here, and you go ahead and you create your preset marches. Okay, you set these up, you get them ready to go, you go into battle, right? You have fun. A couple of days later, you go into your next fight, right? Let's say this is a week, 2 weeks later, whatever the case might be, and you go into your battle, you send out your marches after you pop your 50%, and you're good to go, right? And then you realize after maybe an hour or two that in between your first fight, which was a few weeks ago, and now you've actually increased your troop capacity because you've gone ahead and you've grabbed the call to arms technology. Now, this isn't probably going to happen as often in the newer KVKs that have the newer tech, but because you never went back in and adjusted those presets from your first fight, you've been fighting with less troops than you could have otherwise been fighting with had you realized that you had to update your presets. Well, what if I told you that you can set up presets with so many troops that no matter how much you increase your capacity by, you're never going to reach it? Well, let's go ahead and do that right now. What we're going to do is jump into the expedition. You're going to jump into one of the green garrison maps, and you're going to hit challenge. Then what you're going to do is click on your new garrison, and you're going to set up whatever army it is that you want to use. So for example, I'm going to use Bai Chi with Liu Che, and you'll see here that this is my preset, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to just come up here, and I'm just going to pull this all the way up to 750,000. We're going to tap this, we're going to tap this, and we're going to go boom. Okay, so now what we've done is we've created a preset with 750,000 tier 5 units, which is way more than I'm ever going to be able to use, because you're never going to have a troop capacity that high. So what this is going to do if I set this early on is that no matter what, no matter whether I have an expansion, whether I don't have an expansion, whether I get a 25 or 50%, or if I increase my troop capacity in some other way through crystal tech or whatever, I will always be using the maximum amount of troops if I click this preset button, because it is 750,000 troops, which is insane. A quick tip, but very helpful. Tip number 8 has to do with bastions. Now, there's a couple of different reasons why you might do one bastion over another. In some KVKs, there are things called support skills, right? And what you want to do is prioritize the bastions that have support skills that are really powerful that you've already unlocked, right? A lot of times there's a strong support skill, but it's on a commander you don't have or whatever, so you just ignore that one. But what you want to do is prioritize the ones that, you know, have a skill that you otherwise would want. However, what if you're in a KVK where you don't have support skills? How would you know which one to prioritize here? Well, the answer is always the legendary ones, and there's 2 reasons for that. First of all, as you can see here, I am in Storm of Stratagems, and here you can actually set your different folios, and if you want to change them, it's going to cost you a certain number of these stratagem points, right? Well, great news, completing the bastion quests for the legendaries gives you more stratagem points than completing the bastions for the epics. You get 15 for an epic completion, doesn't matter what it is. If you do a legendary, it's 20, so you literally just get more for doing the legendaries. Okay, that's great to know. What about the second reason? The second reason is if we come over here to my Cao Cao Bastion, right? He's level 6, and you'll see that my Bastion boost gives me a 10% bonus to crystal mine work speed, right? So my level 6 Cao Cao gives me 10% crystal mine work speed. Okay, let's come into my level 7 Herman, right? Level 7 Herman, 9% crystal mine work speed. Okay, so my Herman is a higher level, but I'm actually getting less crystal mine work speed here. Right now, it's also worth noting that there is a difference in the amount of favor that is required to get these different commanders to different levels. But if we come in here, you'll see that at level 10 favor, you get 20% crystal mine work speed. If we come into the epic commanders here, we will see that the max is 15%. So it costs more favor, but you do get more crystal mine work speed and more stratagem points. Now, again, if you're really close to a level up on an epic, maybe you just do 1 or 2 quests just to get you to that next level, because then you get the bonus to crystal mine work speed. But for the most part, you want to focus mainly on the legendaries. Tip number 9 is a really powerful tip for new players. Lots of old players might know this one already, but if you don't know this one, I'm about to blow your mind. Okay, what we're going to take a look at here is march speed differences depending on the territory that you actually are clicking on. Okay, so let's have a little example made out of our Arthur Phillip. Okay, my Arthur Phillip is right here on my alliance territory. What we're going to do is actually zoom out pretty far, and we're going to take a look at this territory all the way down here. Okay, we are 65 kilometers away from this territory. How long does it take to walk right outside of the city here? Let's take a look. I go ahead and drop here, and it is 5 minutes and 31 seconds. Okay, let's go ahead and set him back exactly where he was standing before, and we're going to do that test one more time. So it was 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Now let's go ahead and see what happens if I instead decide to march right here. Let's decide to march right here, and we go ahead and take a look, and it's 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Well, wait a minute, there's no way that it is an entire minute between this spot right here and this spot right here. There's no way, right? But if we go ahead and take a look here, it says, okay, 5:14, and this is 4:17. How is there such a big difference in march speed right here? That's actually insane, right? This is 4:10, and this is 5 minutes. That's insane. That's a crazy big difference. And the reason is obviously because this maroon territory is the alliance territory. So okay, now we know that targeting your territory is what is most important when it comes to the speed of your army. Okay, your march speed is determined by the territory you are targeting, not the territory that you are on. Because remember, this entire time I've been on alliance territory. Look at the green line. I've been on alliance territory this entire time, but the difference is the territory I was targeting. Okay, so always target your alliance territory if it's possible. Now, the other thing that I want to point out here is territory of your allies. Okay, so what happens if we go ahead and try to march right outside of this city right here? We're going to tap right there, and it is 2 minutes 31 seconds, and right here it is 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So it is literally the exact same amount of time whether we're targeting allies territory or not. Okay, so that's good to know. Basically, the only territory that matters here is alliance territory, and the reason for that is because alliance technology called rapid march. Okay, this technology says increases troops march speed when marching to a target that is in alliance territory. So fighting on your territory or marching towards your territory will give you this bonus to march speed to all troop types at all times, but it does not work for allies territory or anything else. Tip number 10 has to do with latent power. This is a talent in the skill tree, and it's off here on the top. Okay, now the reason that I'm including this tip here is because for people with Huo, 21% of you are throwing 3 talent points in the garbage. Okay, which leads me to believe that many people don't actually know what latent power does. So let me give you guys a quick tip here. Okay, it says this commander's troop deals 2% more additional damage of all types. Now, if you just read this really quick and you just breeze right through it, it sounds really good, right? It's like, oh, you're getting 2% more damage of all types. That's insane, right? 2% additional damage of all types. That sounds insane, right? It sounds like 2% all damage, right? That's not what this is, unfortunately. Okay, it's 2% more additional damage. Additional damage is a type of damage, okay, which is like really annoying that is a type of damage. If we come over to a commander like Cyrus, his 4th skill says if this commander's troop is on the map, whenever it's hit with a basic attack, you have a 10% chance to deal additional damage. Okay, this is what they're talking about. Anytime that you see additional damage in the upgrade preview, that is additional damage in the skill tree. Okay, so this would be a commander that you would use latent power on, and it's hysterical that people are not using latent power on a commander that it actually is for, whereas I mean 16% of you are, but 21% of you are using it on a commander where it literally doesn't work. Now it is also the case that, you know, you might use latent power on your primary because your secondary actually does a lot of additional damage, or in the example of Ragnar, this is a commander that I actually do use latent power on, right? 31% of you are doing that as well. 6% more additional damage is good because the active skill here says you do additional damage every second for 2 seconds, right? So you're actually dealing a lot of additional damage with Ragnar, and on top of that I'm pairing him with CPO Prime, and on his third skill he has additional damage factor. So once again, both these commanders are dealing additional damage, and therefore it makes sense to grab latent power for my Ragnar Prime. But for pretty much every other commander in the game right now, I mean, there's just very few commanders that deal additional damage that are meta, so most commanders you never want this talent. Tip number 11 is another really quick tip here, but it has to do with your commander view page. The way that you can access this is down here in the bottom corner of your profile. You click on that and you get what's called your commander view, and this is important because the commanders that you set here can actually get some pretty good stats, right? You have 1% defense, 1% health, 1% health, 1% attack. You want to get the most out of this, right? And this is especially important if you have maybe only one single really strong march. Then again, you want to stack as much stats on it as possible. Well, what you can do is realize that the commander view works for both your primary and your secondary commander. So for example, if I'm going to run my Bai Chi with Liu Che, what I can do is actually change my drill master to my Bai Chi. Now what this is going to do is my Bai Chi Liu Che commander pairing is going to have plus 1% attack because of Bai Chi, and it's going to have plus 1% health because of Liu Che, right? Now I know a lot of people got confused by this originally, because if you think about things like your talents, right, your talents only work for your primary commander. The talents of your secondary do not matter at all. You think about your equipment only matters for your primary commander. Secondary's equipment does not matter at all. You look at your armaments and your formation only matter for your primary commander. They don't matter on your secondary at all. Now what I mean by that is that obviously this affects your secondary, but the equipment and everything that is equipped to your secondary does not matter, right? I have this here as a placeholder, you can ignore that, okay? But like I can leave this empty and he's gaining the benefit of the equipment on the Bai Chi, right? So in every aspect of the game, pretty much the secondary commander is just kind of being dragged along by all the boosts and bonuses to the primary commander, right? And so a lot of people thought that the commander view would be the same way, that this would only work for primary commanders, but that is not true. This works for your primary and your secondary. Tip number 12 is another super quick tip that I want to throw in here, and that is a way that you can reinforce flags or rallies a lot faster. Okay, and one thing that a lot of people do when they're reinforcing flags or rallies is they use commanders that aren't typically very good, and the reason that they do this is because sometimes you'll have one army that's in a flag and you're defending something, but then you want your good commanders on the field so you can get value out of them, so you can fight with them while you're losing troops in a flag, right, while it's getting rallied. So a lot of times the weaker commanders are used for that, and therefore a lot of times you don't have equipment on these commanders, you don't have formations on these commanders or whatever, but there is still one thing that you have control over, and this can help you reinforce your flag or rally a lot faster, and that is simply by choosing a formation, right? A lot of times people actually do not, like, by default there's nothing here, right? This is what a commander looks like just out of the box. There's no formation at all, right? But remember, you actually get bonuses just from picking a formation. You don't even have to have any armaments in there. If I pick triple line, I just got 5% march speed for free, right? And great news, there's the staggered formation, which gives you 15% march speed when marching to join a rallied army or garrison, right? So what you want to do is actually set your staggered formation for all of the primary commanders that you typically use exclusively to reinforce a particular flag, right? And what you can actually do is then go ahead and make a preset over here, maybe in like one of your yellow marches or something like that. You can make a preset with a commander pairing that is just exclusively your staggered commander, your staggered formation commander, and then a secondary that also has some march speed or whatever. here, and that's going to help you join the flag just a little bit faster, right? And remember what we said earlier about using that attack march to go back and forth and to hit people trying to jump into flags. Well, think about, you know, having 15% more march speed walking into that flag could get you in just a half a second faster and avoid taking AoE skill damage from somebody that's nearby, right? And so you can actually get into the flag with a couple more troops than you would have otherwise, just by making this quick little change that costs you literally nothing. And finally, tip number 13 is a small tip for those of you that spend a little bit in Rise of Kingdoms, okay? And this tip has to do with maximizing your value for VIP points, right? I know a lot of people in the early game especially are focusing on how you can get to VIP 6, and then from there you're focusing on how you can get yourself to VIP 10, because this is when you're going to start to get some legendary commander sculptures every single day, right? VIP 9 is just epics, and so along the way there's these VIP levels that you really want to reach, right? And the fastest way to get VIP points is to spend money. Like, let's just be real, that is the truth, right? So then you might be thinking, okay, well, what is the most cost-effective way to get VIP points, right? Like, if you want to get VIP as fast as possible but you don't want to spend, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars all at once, like, what's the best VIP point to dollar ratio in Rise of Kingdoms? And the answer, and this is tip number 13, is that buying the daily special offer is easily the best value when it comes to not only getting decent commander sculptures for some solid commanders, also you get 1200 gems for $3, whereas all the other $5 bundles in the game give you 1050 gems, right? So like, even from a gem value, the daily special offer is really good. But on top of that, if we take a look here, you'll see that if we scroll all the way down, the treasure of the king gives you 75 VIP points. Okay, so 75 times 5, that's 375 VIP points. Here we have 50 VIP points, and yes, I'm doing the math here, times 5 is 250 plus 375, that's 625. Okay, and then over here we have 25, and it's late in the day, so I'm actually going to rely on a calculator for that. Times 5 is 125 plus 625, so you get 750 VIP points for $3. Okay, 750 VIP points for $3. Let's come in here and take a look at a $5 bundle. Okay, so this one gives you get 5 of the 100 point tokens, so you get 525 VIP points for $5, right? So right away, from a VIP point perspective, the daily special offer is better. From a gem value perspective, the daily special offer is better. And so if you can find a commander in here that you could use or would find value in, which at this point you probably can, because there's so many freaking commanders in here, right? Like, it's actually insane. It goes all the way up to Ragnar Prime, who's here. We also have Liu Che, right? Like, some of the best commanders in the game can be obtained in this way. And so, yeah, I mean, Zhuge Liang, hello. If you just got your hands on Emperor Qin, you need Zhuge Liang with him, right? Like, I mean, you don't need him, but like, that's the best pair for him. So yeah, but the point is, if what you care about is gems and VIP points, the daily special offer is going to get you the most VIP points per dollar, and that's going to get you to the higher VIP levels a little bit faster if you're just getting this every day. But also, just to be clear, if there's not a commander here that you need or want or will use, don't just buy this for the VIP points, right? I mean, otherwise you're getting silver keys, a small amount of gems, some books of knowledge. Like, really, it's not that worth it if you don't want the commanders as well. So just keep that in mind too. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the video. If you made it all the way to the end, it really would help out a ton if you drop a thumbs up on it. It pushes this video out into the algorithm. It tells YouTube that you liked it, and maybe more Rise of Kingdoms players might see it and like it as well. While you're down there, consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell to be notified the next time I upload a Rise of Kingdoms video, and comment down below any tips that you think a lot of people don't know that they should know. Put them in the comments, and maybe they'll be featured in a future video. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I will talk to you guys again soon. Peace.